The first solar farm started going in around 2009, so there's not a lot of trained help out there. And that's one of the things we do at the Center for Energy Education, is I teach a lot of classes for construction, so they'll bring in people with no training. We'll give them some of the skills they need to get on a site to be able to do an installation. Welcome to the Center for Energy Education's virtual solar farm tour. My name is Jason Bone, Department Head for Halifax Community College's Industrial Systems Technology program. I also do solar training for the Center for Energy Education through courses such as construction and operations and maintenance. Here we are in North Carolina on a 5-megawatt solar farm. It sits on 55 acres of land and was commissioned in 2016. You may be wondering what makes a location optimal for a solar farm. Basically the same thing that makes a piece of land optimal for farming. In fact, that's what is usually used as farmland is leased out. But they want a large plot of land that gets sun. It's, solar. On top of the desired piece of land, shade-free, wide open, there also has to be close to a substation where they can tie into the distribution lines, which are going to be 3-phase power, unlike single phase, which is what we have in our homes. So if you see a solar farm, and as you'll see in some of your video today, you'll notice that there is fencing with barbed wire along the top. It has several purposes. One is to keep wildlife out. The other is to keep people out. Part of the National Electric Code says anything over 30 volts has to be non-accessible to humans, and these systems are typically at 1,000 volts DC, so it's for safety. So here we see a PV module. This is one of the most common type of PV modules you're going to find out there on a rooftop or on a utility scale system like we have here. This is what's called a polycrystalline module. Another popular type is called a monocrystalline. Those are the two modules that dominate the industry. And what they're made out of is silicon. Silicon is the second most abundant element on Earth other than oxygen. 25% of the Earth's crust is silicon. So it's not shouldn't be a concern. We shouldn't be afraid of silicon. This would not work if it wasn't for silicon. These phones are full of it. That's how it makes all the chips inside of them work. That's what they're made out of. In fact, this is very much made exactly like those chips are made. It's what we call a p-n junction, and that's exactly what the chips in your phone, in your computer, if you have transistors for stereos, all of these things. Any device in your home that you plug into the wall, for the most part, takes the AC from the grid, turns it into DC through a p-n junction. So silicon, all of our electronics are full of silicon. To see the entire system, everything that is required to generate this electricity on this solar farm, what we have to have are our PV modules. A lot of folks call them solar panels, that's fine. We need these modules. They harvest the sun, generate DC voltage, DC current. We send that to a combiner box to combine all these rows of modules together. Then that DC current is then sent to this inverter, which is right here behind us. This inverter turns that DC into AC electricity, sends it to a transformer, and it's pumped up onto the grid. Each string, as we saw earlier, was putting out roughly 1,000 volts at roughly 8.6 amps. So each one of these red conductors you see coming in is one string. Each one of them is roughly 1,000 volts. And it's going to depend on the time of the day, really, but and at max current, it would be 8.63 amps coming in on each of those red conductors. Then those are all connected in parallel. Voltage stays the same in parallel. At that point, the current becomes additive. The arrays on a solar farm are typically going to be oriented in one of two directions. For a fixed array, they're going to be facing due south to maximize their solar potential. And on a tracking system, the modules will be sitting east to west, and they will track the sun as it rises in the east in the morning and track it throughout the day as it sets in the west. One of the big concerns with solar farm design is inter-row spacing. One of the concerns is we don't want the shade from one row of modules to be cast on the row behind it, as this would be detrimental to power production. As far as a fixed array system, there are no trackers, so there are no motors running. The systems are pretty much dead quiet. On a tracking system like we're on today, the motors, these modules are moving maybe 2 degrees every 2 or 3 minutes. The motors will cut on for about 15 seconds and then they're off. From where we're standing, and maybe you can see some of the tracking equipment behind us, it's virtually no sound at all. One of the big concerns that I hear being asked all the time from local people in the community is, will anything grow up under these modules? They have this idea that once these modules are put in place, nothing will grow under them, and once it's all removed in 20 to 30 years, the land is going to be of no use. But if you can look back behind me, you can see there's grass growing underneath these arrays, there's grass growing down all the rows. There's zero concern as far as the environmental concern of vegetative growth. You know, they have to come out here and cut this grass because of that. Is glare a concern? That's another big question we get asked. Well, if you think about the job of the PV module or the solar module, its job is not to reflect the sunlight, but to harvest the sunlight. So the reflectivity of these PV modules is just a little bit higher than the reflectivity of the asphalt that's making up our roads. There are many job opportunities working in renewable field or in solar in general. You could possibly go to your local community college and take courses in installation, system design. Those are the type of courses that I teach. Through the Center for Energy Education, I also teach courses in construction for the crews coming in to put these large-scale systems in. I've also done some training for the operation and maintenance for the personnel who come out and maintain these systems. They address any downtime. There are many other job opportunities in the solar industry. They need accountants with special skills. They need lawyers with special skills to create these deals. They need IT personnel. All this equipment is networked, and all the data, how much power is being produced, how bright is the sun today, what is the temperature of these modules, what is the wind speed, and what is the local ambient temperature. All this data is being sent to a data center where analysts are now analyzing this data, determining how much power should be being produced, and then that can be checked against how much data actually is being produced, and from that they can determine whether or not there is a concern. The lifespan of a solar farm is typically 20 to 30 years. The modules all have a 20-year warranty on them. Most of the inverters have a 15 to 20-year warranty on them. Most of the deals are made for 20 to 30 years. Another big question is, what happens when it's all done? 25 years later, the lease is up on this piece of land. Are they just going to drive away and leave all this here? No, there is huge scrap value in this. This solar farm is 90% recyclable. Typically, at the very beginning, at the very first deal, money, that's part of the actual plan, money is put into escrow to have this system removed upon decommissioning. The hopes are at the end of that 25-year lease that you're going to re-up the lease and they can, keep on generating free power from the sun. So why should we buy into solar? One option is to continue burning coal, burning natural gas, but the reality is, maybe not in our lifetime, but in our children's lifetime, that's going to go away. What kind of security are we leaving them? One thing we do know is that the sun is going to rise tomorrow, and for no fuel charge whatsoever, the sun is going to hit these modules and start generating free electricity. If we're using wind turbines, the same thing is going to happen. The wind is going to blow, no charge for fuel. We're getting free electricity. If we're using hydro, once again, it's going to continue to rain, the water cycle is going to continue, the rivers are going to continue to flow, we're going to continue to have clean electricity. No fuel charges whatsoever. That's the best reason I can think of to buy into solar. We don't have a fuel charge. We can build a coal plant, we can build a solar farm. Once the coal plant is built, every day we have to have a train using diesel fuel deliver coal so the coal can be burnt, emitting CO2 into the atmosphere so that we can make electricity. Or we can build a solar farm Once the solar farm is built, it just sits here. We don't have to use any trucks to deliver any fuel. Every single day, the sun's going to rise, the sun's going to shine on these modules, and free of charge, they're going to generate electricity. Clean energy, no emissions. At the Center for Energy Education, we've trained over 200 men and women for jobs in the solar industry, performing construction, building solar farms, much like you've seen today, and also performing operations and maintenance on these systems. Stay in touch with us at centerforee.org. These little silver lines going through here, these are contacts. So right now with this little bit being covered, current flowing through here can come up, it can move around this guy and take another path. We're going to lose a very small amount from that little bit right there.